We also spoke about alignment that sometimes is so difficult to see. And then I think we also were in agreement that within review standards 7 and 8, a lot of work needs to be done specifically within South African context, or the global South, as we refer to it often. But then positives that I don't think it's, when you're not looking for a complete review, just making tangible differences by looking at the smaller things. But then a last comment with the late joiner, which was also very insightful, is the knowledge that's often lacking to make those differences. And in a way, QM allows you to showcase that knowledge and empower people to actually make a difference. Jared, over to you.
Yes.
No, you well said. I think you encapsulated a lot of what we actually spoke about. And you even mentioned like frankly the positives of all this, and how important these 3 pointers really are at drawing out what can really assist us in as the global South and the struggles that we really deal with. I think it's really helpful, and even the simple. And I want to pull up the 1.6, because even though it's 1 point, it does connect with a lot of these other issues. And I think although it's not explicitly stated, I think we can start evaluating kind of how digital literacy is also embedded within our courses and within the objectives, because those really do improve the learning. These literacies are important in how we really develop towards, I guess, fourth industrial revolution, if you want to use a buzzword. If there's anything I missed, someone else jump in.
Nanda, I don't know whether you saw the comments, but if someone can remove my wife from the meeting, that'll be very much appreciated.
Too late now.
Like,
It's your greatest asset. So let me add something else so that you was said in terms of the comment or the phrase. So when you do, even if you're doing a full review, and also keep in mind that we've been discussing the notion of eventually you feel good enough to take the step and to submit the course for review. But the reality is that there are so many variations and ways of start adopting the standards, and also not just allowing, depending on someone, on that final external review. Like, so, for example, some institutions, they have submitted courses for review just to make sure they understand the process, just to make sure they understand how to apply and interpret the standards. And then once they do that, then they set up their own internal review process. For example, I have collaborated with the University of Northwestern in Chicago in the US, and they have a large team of designers, and at the end of every cycle of every semester they produce, I don't know, 10, 15 new courses. They do an internal review. They act as peer reviewers for the courses that others review. So it's built into their quality assurance process that they go through a QM review, but it's internal. And not all courses are submitted to QM. So eventually you do want to be able to submit it to QM, because that's the way that you, with peers that have been trained, like Yanni, that give you the insights and suggestions. But there are many ways to implement this. So just because you're not doing a full review doesn't mean that you're not making progress toward quality assurance. All right, so great insights. And group number 2 or next group?
Sorry, Fernando, I see that Yanni has
Yes.
a hand up. Yanni, do you want to comment?
Oh,
to
Yanni,
say?
please. I didn't
yes,
see it. Yanni, please jump in.
Sorry, Fernando. I just want to link
Yes.
on to what you said now, is to kind of give the people the standards before they even start with their course design. Especially new lecturers that's totally new, in lecturing at institutions, to show them, kind of look at this. This is what you're working towards. You don't have to do it perfectly yet, but the whole time that you are designing your course, mapping out your course, have this in mind while you are doing it. So
Absolutely.
that when you get to that internal review, it's not the first time that you see that rubric. So that
Yes.
really helps a lot.
Absolutely. Great point. Yes. I mean, that's the whole point of the rubric is to help you plan or design, anticipate. And actually, one of the greatest insight from a faculty member that I worked with many years ago, she refused to put her course online. At the very end, she says, "Oh, now I see that I was just improvising as I was driving to my face-to-face course, and I need to know, I need to plan in advance before the semester starts what I'm doing." So yes, you want to be exposed to the rubric before you start your work to be more effective and more efficient. All right, so next group.
I'm not sure if we were the next group, but I think let me start then.
Yes.
Our group discussed most of the our group discussed most of the things that was covered now as well, and we like definitely the fact that this is a guide to help a novice and established lecturers, but we also focused a bit on the ability, the accessibility for students that's differently abled, for our, if we can just call it disabled students, and I know that's not the correct term, but just for reference. So how do we make it accessible for those students that we do not necessarily think of as differently abled? So putting the focus to that, I think there's a lot of value in that point there. And we also spend some time talking about learner support, because again, that is also very often a neglected part, where we assume that because we know where to find things on our LMS in our module, that the learners will follow our own thought processes as well, and they will also get to the content where I don't say hide it, but we've placed it, because as we file things in our own computer, we file it places where we also sometimes cannot find it, but where we filed it, and then we think the students will find it, but they won't. And then we get irritated because the students keep on asking the same questions. So just having a focus on learner support and having a frequently asked questions section and directions, and not just step sheets, but guiding them. So I think for us, that was one of the things where a lot of our conversations circled about.
Excellent. Yes. And also, you raised in the group this notion of having being able to use it as a guide as you work with faculty, especially new lecturers who are novice, who are maybe doctoral students who are teaching, and gives them a head start of how to better plan their courses. All right, next group. We had 4 groups, correct?
We had 3.
Oh, 3 groups. Okay, so the last one then.
Okay, then I suppose I'm representing the last group.
We're supposed to. Yeah, go ahead.
Our group was quite diverse. There were people from industry. Yes, Yanni. There were people from industry and from government, and then from tertiary education institutions. And some of us were academics, and some of us were trainers, and some of us were from technical support and design, which made it quite interesting, because there were various viewpoints in the group on the value of the assessment and design tools and the rubric suggestions that you have here. And I think the consensus was that understanding how everything fits together is very valuable. And having the design people there was also interesting, because especially in the online environment, you need to have an understanding of what is possible and what is not possible in terms of design and technology. And sometimes we tend to take technology for granted. And then on a day like today, you know, people keep falling off the internet and there's all sorts of Wi-Fi issues. And then you realize, no, the theory is good, the practice is not so good. But on the other hand, many of us have seen these alignment set out from outcomes-based education courses that we've done before in our own government, in our Department of Education, Department of Higher Education as it is now, in the requirements that are there. We know we're supposed to do it. We know how we're supposed to do it. But seeing it here and seeing it focused and seeing that you can now get a qualification certification for it, and knowing the importance and the competition in the higher education field, just sort of focuses your mind. And that this type of process with an external quality assurance process is maybe more important for somebody in formal tertiary education than for people that are, for instance, doing corporate training for a mine or industry or so on, where you get a certificate of attendance, or not necessarily a degree or a diploma at the end of a program, but that all training programs should take into account the alignment between obviously the objectives and what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it, and how the assessments are going to be facilitated through technology. And the process that I'm involved in at the moment, and I'm mid-process at the moment, and I see Camira is here as well. Hi, Camira. I owe her a load of stuff, but I'm sitting in this workshop and it's much more interesting than actually doing the homework that you gave me. You know, we go through an internal process first, and once that is perfect and we're sure that that is all aligned and I did my work well, then it will be submitted to QM externally so that we get that certification for when we go into the market and we can say to international students, University of Pretoria, internationally accredited university, and this program has this certification, so that people can come, and it's fully online. It is not remote teaching, it's an online program. I'm starting to learn the difference. You know, old dogs learning new tricks. And that you have this now possible. And I've learned and I've seen this over the last week or so. You know, when we were mid-pandemic and everybody was very confused and there was a lot of trauma there. But as we go through this, it is good to see that something is coming out of this whole situation, which might eventually be of benefit. You know, the whole thing of chaos theory, eventually a pattern emerges.
Yes.
And we might be emerging at a higher level than where we were, and we can find some benefit from that. And that is also something which I personally find something which you can hang on to, and something that you can find comfort in, for lack of a better word. And that was our group.
Wow.
That was exceptional. What a great discussion.
What a great conversation. Wow.
And we didn't exactly, well, we didn't know where you were setting, but we obviously not intentionally group you with such a diverse a variety of different contexts. And I'm glad that you also addressed the differences of what things will apply more for higher ed versus a corporate environment, and how some things are just essential even in the corporate environment. I work in that sector too, and I find that often, well, not often, but I've seen scenarios in which in the corporate sector, we skip some of these elements. And for example, training becomes either a punishment or something that just a routine activity. There's some perception that something is not working well, and out of management they say, well, let's go to training and let's develop a training for that. when sometimes training is not the solution. You need to provide better instructions, better tools, or something else that is not a training-related issue. But nonetheless, as you were saying, there's some core elements of alignment. If you do training, then you have to be providing evidence, more so in industry, that the investment of time and resources are worthwhile in terms of approaching delivering some training, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's online, and it actually produces results and not just providing a certificate that you were there, physically there. So great insights. Thank you so much for that. So as you see from this collection of interpretations, oh, sorry, you want to say something? Oh, and Chris has hand.
Yeah, I see Chris has his hand up. Chris, do you want to ask something?
Yes, just something that we didn't touch on in our group that we didn't get around to, and just a short mention of it. I like the point system, the value added to the different points. Like that a lot.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good way to differentiate that not everything obviously is there for a reason, and every single statement of every individual standard has research behind it, supporting it. It's not someone else. It's not like scenario like someone else pulled out of a hat, out of its own preference, what they think a course should look like. No, every single, it is a very long, laborious process to come up to this version of these standards, and they all need to be supported as a good practice from research. But because everything is standard, we still need to provide some guidance. The course doesn't need to be perfect. Otherwise, no one would meet a standard. The intention is continuous improvement. So if you submit a course, the point system gives you some reference, and as Dr. Gao was mentioning, even if you only focus on those standards that have a point of 3 points, that's not enough. You don't get to 85 points by just completing those with 3. But certainly, in order to obtain the certification, every single standard that has a point of 3 needs to be met. But great observation. Yes.
I also want to add a little bit of what I heard from the few minutes I was in Group 1 and Group 3. Group 1 was mentioning accessibility, in the U.S., North America, because certain parts of Europe, because online education has been going on for a while, a decade or 2, if not more. So in the U.S., for example, the accessibility is a federal mandate, in the sense that if you are offering online programs, online courses, if students who need a special accommodation, if they cannot access your course or cannot access certain parts of your course, they can even sue your institution. So it's a serious issue here. But for the rest of the world, as we are saying, the world is getting smaller and smaller. Now we are all learning and teaching and learning in the digital environment, no matter where you are, from. So I think accessibility in the big context of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So accessibility, usability is only going to become more important. So including those standards, and having them at the back of your mind when you start to improve your course or start to offer more online programs is very important to us. The other thing I heard is, I think it was in the third group, was talking about accreditation as well. High level officers, presidents, accreditation is their #1 concern, of course, but they need to meet all the accreditation standards criteria. So where are the data come from? What are the positive impact of all the investment institutions are making? So by having faculty do some PD, professional development, and then having your courses improved by the standards, and then in return you are going to have some positive data from the students, their overall grades improve, interaction, engagement, etc. So these are all very good data for the institution as well. The other thing I want to kind of comment on is we also mentioned, for higher education, certainly K-12 as well, the course review certification serves as a benchmark purpose, of course, but also for corporation and for continuing education professional organizations, we actually are seeing more and more of them. The reason is because even before pandemic and certainly after the pandemic, a lot of corporate training or organizations whose purpose is to provide continuing professional education for the general community, they are also have the needs to ensure the community that the online trainings that we are offering are of quality. Because even though they do not give out, official college level credits, right? Because they're for continuing professional, but the marketing, the competition in the marketing is also increasing. For example, we have a member institution in France, in Paris, and it is IIEP, International Institute of Education something, but it's it's a unit under UNESCO. Their whole mission, the entire unit, is focused on provide professional development for the entire world under UNESCO. The professional development can be anywhere from recycling to how to managing your budget and how to do internal quality assurance, no matter how you're doing. So they have joined QM. They have their major professional development offerings QM reviewed and certified. So it's their way to ensure their international community that what they are offering is of quality. So I just want to mention those. The other thing that we were discussing is the tools, right? We don't want to use any fancy tools just because it's new, it's fancy, it's shining. Everything has to have a purpose. If you're using a tool, that tool is used to engage students, to serve a specific purpose. And last but not least, certainly lifelong learning. We are all back to school. The school is big. We're all learning here. And that is why we're meeting here to learn from each other. So thank you. Dr. Senior, continue.
Yes, let me just respond to a question that was asked earlier about how to become a peer reviewer. Basically, it's a two-step process, basically 2 workshops that are required. First workshop, it's the most commonly offered course in QM. It's a 2-week course called Applying the QM Rubrics. And in the 2 weeks process, you are introduced to QM through some of the attributes and values that drive the quality assurance model for QM. But also, you're given the opportunity to have like a rehearsal of what it means to be a peer reviewer. You're given access to a course. You're giving a smaller list of not all the 48, maybe 3 or 4 standards. And you're asked, okay, here's the standard. Go to this address, open this course, and make a judgment about whether this standard is met or not, and provide what's the evidence that supports your decision. So it's kind of a rehearsal. It's a test run of what it feels like to go into a course. And we were discussing in group 2, for example, that you may have information in your course that only you know how to find. and sometimes you have a hard time trying to remember where you place it. And it happens in this exercise that when you're asked to do a test as pretend you're a peer reviewer, you may come back and say, no, this standard is met because I didn't find the information. And luckily, most likely you're going to get a feedback from your facilitator saying, yes, it is there. You have to keep looking, and it's somewhere hidden somewhere, which is a common thing to do. So that's a 2-week process, and then once you obtain that, you complete that course, then you can apply for a workshop. This is a 3-week workshop specifically to obtain the certification as a peer reviewer. And obviously that's more detailed. It goes into the subtleties of even the writing. There's even a criteria for how to write a recommendation that you need to follow. And it's more intense, more work, but at the end you become, excuse me, a certified peer reviewer, which is different from actually becoming one. There's still a third step to be part of the list of available peer reviewers for all institutions in the QM network. Once you complete these 2 courses, then you apply for the role to become a peer reviewer, and they will require 2 things. One, that you have completed these 2 workshops, and second, you need to also have recent teaching experience online, because it's peer review. So even if you have a long history of being involved in distance education and you've completed these 2 courses, you still need to meet the criteria that you're teaching, because you're going to be talking to peers and reviewing their courses. So that's what it is. And also I'll specify that how do you access these courses? You can, if your institution is a member of QM, you can access with a special discount price. But also, if you want to do it individually, that's actually was my initiation to QM. You just pay for your individual membership as a person. It's just a single person. It's I don't know, I don't remember the fee, $75 or less than $100 or something like that. And the discount that you get for these 2 workshops pays the membership already, but because you save enough just to be able to justify the investment just for a personal. So that's all it takes: 2 workshops and then teaching experience, and that qualifies you to enter into the database for available peer reviewers, and you can be asked to review courses from institutions anywhere in the world.
I see that we have
Liana,
another question.
Liana,
Liana?
yes.
I'm just wondering, I recently now completed both the courses, but I'm a 25-year-long instructional designer, and I do informal, it's not credit-bearing training of lecturers and that. So, but I see if you want to apply, it must be a credit-bearing course. So how do I approach that? Because I do present classes to lecturers, but it's not a formal course within the university.
Yes.
I can take
Yapping.
this one, Dr. Senior. Yes, I can take. Okay, so you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for this question, and you are not the only one who's been asking about this. And fortunately, we are actually moving towards a new set of criteria for peer reviews, and which actually will include experienced instructional designers like yourself to become QM certified peer review. It's coming. We have spent some time getting all the feedback from the community, and there's a great demand for that because, you know, faculties are a content expert. They are busy teaching. I mean, it's certainly wonderful to have recent online experience, but instructional designers like you yourself have been working with faculty day in and day out for years, if not like 20 years as yourself. So yes, so and send me an email after this workshop. I will include some more current information to send to you, so you can be kept in the loop and you can be informed. We are starting the process to include instructional designers like yourself to be peer reviews. Okay.
Thank you so much. Can you just put your email address for me in the chat?
Yes, I will do it one more time. Yes, and we also have that at the end of our presentation. So are there any other questions, or do we want to go back to the slides and try to wrap up? I'm good either way.
And we have also leave some time for the price that we're giving away.
I think the price
Remember?
is already part of the thing there, so we do not need time to do it. Okay.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, the price is actually, sorry, let me just say this. I see that Cedric has just now put in the Lucky Prizes link for us.
Okay.
So we want all of our attendees to just click on that link and enroll for it. And then with a final or with a goodbye session of our symposium that starts at 4:10, we are going to spin the wheel once again, and then the lucky prize winner will win either the conference seat or the one workshop that you are offering.
Okay. So I'm going to share screen and we can just go over the last few slides and to wrap up. We did promise that we will share a few notes about the top trends in higher education. And this particular report is the annual EDUCAURS Horizon report that they publish annually. One of the addition is focused on teaching and learning. So it came out this spring, and if you see, these are the top 5 trends in higher education. I bolded the first one and the last one because that's very much relevant to our conversation today. So the first thing is, looking forward, even if we are going back to our new normal and going back to our face-to-face teaching, most of us, the hybrid model is going to stay. That means you design your course in a way that it can be taught hybrid, online, or just to use the content in online environment to help continue the engagement for your face-to-face course. So that's going to stay and even going to get bigger. And of course, we know learning analytics, right? Every one of us use some sort of learning management system and powered by all the little artificial intelligence behind it. So all the major decisions needs to be made based on the data, based on the analytics. Micro-credentialing, we have been talking about this for years and years, but now it really seems to be coming up again and again. And worldwide, I think micro-credentialing or tertiary education or lifelong learning, in the US, we tend to call it more narrowly, is a non-credit bearing or non-degree bearing, but it's really about courses and the programs that do not have an official diploma or degree, but can help students to get their job faster, or can help them to move up their career. And then OER, of course, because we are all teaching and learning in the digital environment. So the hard copy textbook or resources, etc., is more and more become digitized, and everything that we can pretty much find it, using Google or on our phone. So the OER trend is only going to take off more. And the last, quality online education and digital learning. This is in particular, this is actually the Horizon Report Teaching and Learning. The top 4 have come up in the previous years before pandemic, but only this year, the quality issue of online education and digital learning appeared on the top 5. So that's why we are here. That's why we are having this international conversation about how to improve quality. So I just want to mention that. And hybrid mood, just wanted to give you an example of Miami University in the state of Ohio in US in their category of offering. And this is very current right now. They have all this acronyms. So one course can be offered as an online asynchronous, and that's what we are going to call them as, you know, traditional online education, right? And then now we have Zoom, we have Collaborate, we have you know, all kind of conference tools for us to do online synchronous session or interactive video. And then you have the hybrid. You can do asynchronous certainly, but hybrid can also incorporate synchronous Zoom sessions, collaborative sessions like this, and also include. So then we have the face-to-face. So if you look at this, as we were saying, the pandemic, you know, has been horrific, but it also gave us so many opportunities to be very creative, so that we can prepare ourselves moving forward. So in conclusion, let's just pause for a moment and think about the triangle, the pyramid that I showed earlier in the first hour, in the first few minutes. What is quality, and how do we help, how do we contribute to quality teaching and learning at your department, at your college, at your institution, and even contributing to the national conversation in your country. So quality, we can ensure no matter what role we have. You can contribute at course level, program level, and institutional level. So again, it's just a quick conclusion here is if you are working towards at the course level, between alignment between objective assessment, alignment between all the major course components, everything has to have a purpose, everything has to align with each other and support each other. And you want to align all the resources so that you can use limited funding and the resources to better support your faculty, support your students. At the program level, certainly, you know, teaching can be very silo, but it does not have to be. So at the program level, you think about the curriculum design, curriculum mapping. Think about what learning outcomes, objectives in the courses that you are teaching, how can they contribute to the program competency, program outline. And again, resource support, as I mentioned earlier, in the QM program review certification. Curriculum is only a part of the program. You have to have support for faculty as well as for students. And last but not least, how are the students doing in your online or hybrid program? So back again, this is the pyramid. So no matter where we are in your role at the institution, the goal is the same, is to help our students, and we are all in our way contributing to the institutional goals. And we have some additional resources, and we'll be happy to share any or more of these. So just email us, whether you're a teaching faculty, whether you're an instruction designer, whether you are a dean administrator, or we have all sorts of resources for you. Just email us. We actually have a conference coming up in 2 weeks as well, and that's actually part of the part of the prize that we QM contributed to this symposium. Is either one conference registration or one for the APPQMR Applying QM rubric workshop that you can use to become a peer review. And Dr. Senior, do you want to say a few words here? Or do you want me to continue? I know we only have 1 minute here.
Yeah, just quickly, just that we have, especially Yaping and myself, being very active and very busy in having conversations with colleagues like yourselves all over the world. Actually, this morning I finished a session at 4 a.m. my time with Pakistan, and it was, and last night with Peru. So it's very, it's a dialogue to have at this moment, because all this COVID has generated, as one of you said, out of this situation, generate opportunities for having important discussions that basically have an impact in the quality of the work that we do. So this is just images of samples of places that we've been all over the place.
Yeah, so we have major partnerships and collaborations going on in China, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, in Saudi. So we would welcome institutions from South Africa to contact us and to have a conversation. So I think time is up, and we already had a great session on Q&A, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Dr. Kim and Dr. Ankia for inviting us and giving us this opportunity, and I want to thank the University of Pretoria for hosting such a wonderful symposium, and we look forward to future opportunities to engage again. So thank you.